All right, man. It's been a couple of days since we last spoke, so glad to jump back on a link with you guys. I just want to check in and see how's everybody doing before we jump into any topics, because I think we got a really good discussion set up for today. But first of all, how's everybody doing and how's your week going?
Going good on my end, man. Still just we just moved earlier this month, so out the city, so still trying to get adjusted to living life in the burbs. But other than that, things are going good.
Nice,
Nice, man.
nice, good
Well,
stuff.
things are terrible on my end, just hating life. No, things are fine. It's been a pretty chill week for me. I think it was a lot more busy last week, actually. So it's been nice.
Okay, good stuff. And Louis, you say you're in the burbs now. You like it better out there, or do
Oh
you
man,
prefer the
yeah,
city?
it's much better for me than being in the city. So yeah, much better experience, much better all around. So yeah, no complaints here.
Wonderful. Okay. So I think that that will probably play into today's conversation as well, just where you live and what you consider a good time and a good place to be. But on this HouseQ channel, we've been talking about a few things. We touched on net worth. We talked to Joe about some of his career steps and how he progressed to, grow his real estate portfolio in a super fast timeline. And so today, I thought it'd be good if we talked about success because I know that success means so many different things to so many different people. And I wanted to get your perspective. I wanted to see, how much you factor money when you think about success and a few other things. So I guess to jump in, I just want to ask a blanket statement and pose the question, what does success mean to you? And either one of you can take it away.
That's a
You,
heck of a starter right there.
that is a heck of a start. You want to kick this one off, Joe?
Yeah, I could kick it off. Um, I mean, I think it's first important to point out that it evolves. So I hope that my definition of success today is different from what it'll be, a year or two, whatever from now. And it's definitely different than what success was in the past. Um, More recently, my definition of success only has to do with money in terms of you to kind of do, what you want or take care of people that you care about and things like that. Obviously, taking care of just the core things like being able to eat, have housing, and things like that. So, really, right now, my definition of success, how could I put this more succinct? It's actually, you know what? It's actually appreciating what I have today. So, my success
Mm,
is really trying to get in and to appreciate my step that I'm on right now and kind of understanding how what I'm doing today to better myself for the future, but it's really about getting more comfortable with the journey because there really is no hard and fast destination.
mhm.
Honestly, even when you hit that destination, it's really just a stop because you'll have something further that you're aiming for. So it's really just about that focus on, each individual step and making sure that that is going in the direction that I want to
Nice. Okay. Yeah, that's a really good definition. And I think that it's good that you started with the notion that your definition today might not be the same definition at some point in the future. And I'm sure it's way different than the definition that you had when I first met you. So thank God for growth for all of us.
Absolutely. I'll piggyback on that too. Like my definition of when Joe was talking, and I was just thinking, I was like, my definition of success is like it's always evolving, it's always changing. But I think the big thing for me, like success wise, is I kind of break it up into like I have personal success that I have for myself, and I also have like career success that I built for myself,
Mhm.
and those just kind of intertwine. But I think the biggest thing for me, what success looks like, is just me setting myself up to, being the first in my generation to help build generational wealth for my kids and people coming after me to set them up and be good. So I think as long as I continue on that path, which I'm we're all on that path right now. Continue down that, and continue to build wealth for the ones following me. So I think that would be my biggest goal of like what success looks like, and that's constantly changing and constantly challenging myself to continue to evolve and improve that.
Got it. Got it. Good stuff. Yeah. So for me, my definition has definitely grown. It used to be very heavily weighted on money, and I think that's a direct reflection of the fact that I didn't have any. So
Yes.
you almost start to believe that this will solve everything else, and if you have the resources, then everything else will fall into place. Now, when I look at success, I think about a few things. I think about, of course, do I have enough to take care of my family? um, do I have a relationship with God that makes me feel fulfilled, and that gives me the life that I'm living? And then it goes into a few other categories, which is like, how are my friendships? How are my relationships? And how is my like physical health, or mental health? So like there's such a broad array of things that funnel through to what success is. But it's it's almost like I feel the most successful when I feel like as many of those things that are really important to me are in balance. And if I'm out of balance with any of those, then my perception of am I living a successful life starts to shift a little bit. So that for me, I think is all inclusive of a word, is the word success.
I like how both of y'all broke it up into different categories because that there's so much truth into that. And it's also interesting at the end where you mentioned that kind of falling behind on one of those really can really effectively bleed into all of them. So all your,
Yeah.
particular categories of I guess your journey and what you would like to be successful in are pretty intertwined.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I found myself, so let me just say, I'm probably a workaholic, and I know both of you can be workaholics also.
Man, I have to stop myself a
Uh,
lot.
so, so that's the thing. It's a gift and a curse. And my question to you is, at what point is hard work getting in the way of your success?
Well, I think when you get to the point of where like you're overdoing it. And what I mean by overdoing it is like I know for me, like I have to kind of set boundaries for myself. Um to
Hmm.
like, hey, I'm only going to work within these certain hours because if I don't set any boundaries, like I'll work from, sun up to sundown and I can do it, for a while, do it for a month or two and then I'm burnt out. And I know that I'm burnt
Hmm.
out because I've overdid it. And that becomes where working hard or just obsessing about working hard where like other areas in your life start to fall off where you stop taking care of yourself health wise, you stop eating right, you stop working out, you stop spending time with your significant other, spending time with your family or friends. Like it becomes where like you
Hmm.
consume. So I have to set boundaries with myself to know like, hey, these are the hours I'm working, these are the hours that I'm spending time with my family and friends. And anything without that, I have to do it because I know even if something's pressing, I know future me is gonna need for me to do that, or I'll become really burnt out. If I
Yeah.
become burnt out, then I become disinterested in anything, and then I have to take time off to just
Mm.
restart. Like I'll just want to go clean
Yep.
slate and like fresh start. So I know just like looking ahead, I've learned over and over with having not saying I have to have like a ritual like morning routine or nightly routine because that becomes work too for me. So I like to just keep it simple
Hmm.
with these certain hours I don't work. I start working here, I quit working here, and spend time here. So, and just make sure you're taking care of all areas of your life because I can tell you, you guys probably know too, man, if you start falling off eating right and working out right, like it definitely is going to affect you, your
Oh
overall
man.
feeling and, you know, definitely. And you just want to make sure your loved ones are loved and you spend time with them as well. So, kind of my long-winded
Hmm.
definition to your question or answer.
Gotcha, gotcha. All right, Joe. Or do you think, and I asked the question as if it were um, a definite that hard work can hurt your chances of success or your definition of it, but that might not even be the case. So I guess for you, Joe, like, do you even think that you can work too hard? Or, if you do, what does that look like and how does that impact the success you may have?
Honestly, I think that that looks different. God, dog, here I am again talking about paths and stuff. So it looks different per individual, and it's going to look different
Hmm.
at different phases of your life. So, for
Hmm.
instance,
Yeah.
when I first got started, oh my gosh, I thought I was working hard, but I was just working long hours and just doing
Yeah.
stuff. I was really just going through the
Yeah.
motions. However, I learned a lot doing that. So I'm not sure that I
Hmm.
would even go back and advise myself to say, hey, take some of this back and do other things. I was working hard, having fun. I mean, I definitely would have fun as well, but it's just at that point it made sense. But if you ask me to do that now, like, hey, just
Hmm.
work overnight or work, several days in a row or something crazy like that, that's just not where I am because I realize it's almost like you run and then you hit a wall and you'll just keep
Yeah.
running and wasting energy up against that wall where it's like if you slow down you realize okay, let me just slow down, turn left, turn right, go around this thing and maybe take a slower pace, take a look out for obstacles. So
Hmm.
I personally at this point think I working hard, I'll do it, but I'll do it smart. So I'll
Yeah.
work hard, but very tactically. So I know exactly what I'm doing. I know what the end result
Mm,
is. Make sure I get that end result and don't let that kind of snowball into, well, let me just do this as well. So that's
yeah.
almost a long winded way of saying that it changes. And I think it's kind of important to understand what you're working towards and making sure that's clear. So once you hit it, you know when to stop.
Yeah.
I
I,
really like that.
I think you touched on a good point, Joe, too, because I think even growing up, like a lot of times, like hard work was attributed to you going out and like doing some physical labor or um,
Hmm.
doing something physical, like hard work, like a desk job wasn't considered. I know with me, like growing up, like a desk job wasn't considered like hard work. It's like, oh, you're sitting at a desk all day. That can't be hard.
Yeah.
When it's like,
The
and
AC.
yeah, I remember when I first started my career, like, like I had like some buddies that are like blue collar workers and they're like, oh, you're not working hard. I have to work these 12-hour shifts and you just sit at a desk all day. I'm like, it's a different type of work because you're using
Yeah.
just because you're not physically using your body all day to do stuff, you're still using your brain and still using your mind all day and you got to recharge it. You can't just let that go
Hmm.
on and on and on all day without refreshing or recharging. So I love the point of you talking about working smarter. So like hard work doesn't always equal the best work. Like it's how can I be efficient
Nope.
and to kind of get an outcome. That's kind of what I like to live by. Like what outcome am I producing to get this? Like do I want to? As long as I get to the
Mm,
outcome, it doesn't matter how I got there. I don't have to take the hardest route to get there. I'm gonna take the most efficient and best way to get there. Um, as opposed to like I
right.
mean and I think that comes too with just career growth and career advancement as you go on within your career and enhance and improve your
Hmm.
skills, things get easier and you become more efficient too. For something that may have seemed hard, a few months ago, if you get that same task today, it's like, oh, this is a 20-minute task or whatever for me to do because I know how to do it.
Hmm. Yep. Yep. No, that you guys both brought up some really good points. So like I want to tug on that string for a little while. So let's start to compartmentalize. And like let's just say in the context of corporate America or in the context of a career, what do you think this concept of working smarter versus working harder really looks like, and how have you benefited from that? Because if we single that out and touching on some of the stuff that you guys both said, it starts to become clear that as you progress in your career, and we'll just talk about career success for a little while, as you progress in your career, you'll notice, or at least I've noticed, that the people that move up aren't necessarily the ones that are working the hardest or working the longest hours. And it used to puzzle me because I did have a direct correlation between hard work and success early on. And so like in a career setting, it's it's dawned on me that results matter so much more than effort,
Yep.
that that's the only thing that matters is the results and not the effort. So at what point did you guys start to figure that out? Because, like, just to be frank, like, I've been amazed by the growth that both of you have had in your careers, and the stuff that you've accomplished in a 10-year period, for example. Like, very few people actually do. So just to give you your flowers right now, but I'm curious to know, like, when did you start to realize, you know what? Me working a ton of hours doesn't equate to rising through the ranks. It's There's something else to this formula.
Yeah, I'll touch on that first. I think with my first like professional like real job outside of like, you know, Little Caesars or like retail Best Buy or something like that. I think my first like real like
Hmm.
office job, I think I realized that like after a few months in because the job it was more of like a support role and they track like all of our metrics, everything that we did, whether it was answering calls, emails, tickets, like everything that we did, they tracked. But we all worked the same hours. But what I was realizing
Hmm.
is became good and efficient at doing what I was doing. So all
Mm.
that led to I was working harder. The harder I worked, all it led to was just more work for me. We were all getting paid the same. We were all doing the same thing. Yes, my numbers look great, but it wasn't equating to pay and it wasn't equating to me moving
Yeah.
up. It just equated to we're just gonna give you more work because you can handle more work. You can
Cool.
handle more work. Yeah. The I
You the
and
best worker bee they ever had.
yeah, and now that I think back on it, I think the same thing with I when I was working at I don't know one of those fast food restaurants cooking chicken or something, and me and another guy were like the best cooks there, and this was when I was in high school. We were the best cooks there, and
Yeah.
we were so good that we always had it stocked. We always had everything ready. They never had to wait. Line never got backed up. We were good. They realized like, oh, these two are so good man, mind you, they never ran the kitchen with one person by themselves. They had us both running the kitchen by ourselves. Like I would do the morning, he would do the night. Like we probably had like an hour or two overlap, but for the most part, they're like, "Oh, you guys are doing so well. We're
Wow.
just gonna have you working these shifts by yourself." Yeah, I did that for 2 weeks and I quit because I was like, this again, hard work when it leads to more work. And I'm not saying I'm a lazy person at all, but like at some point you have to realize like this isn't fair, like this
Mm-mm.
isn't getting me anywhere, this isn't moving me up anywhere, it's just getting me more work and I'm having to carry the work of other people by just
Mm.
working hard and like you say not really applying any skills or anything to help progress and move myself up. So that that
Got
was
you.
those
Okay.
those were both interesting lessons in my career growth.
That's awesome, though. And I guess I almost have a question back to that because I've seen different things as I went along. But how much of it
Hmm.
do you think has to do with, and y'all might have been speaking up and made like kind of what you want clear. But one thing that I've always taken away and that I've seen as I've gone on is
Hmm.
if I wanted to move forward, or I should have been vocal about it, basically, and made it very
Yeah.
clear. Like, for instance,
Hmm.
when I was working my second job in computer science, this is one of the few
Hmm.
times that I got promoted or whatever. Actually, the only
Hmm.
time there, but I was only 3 months in. But I had one project that went really well, and I was just like, "Hey, how soon is too early to ask for, a little bit extra, or how soon is it to
Yeah.
ask for a new title or whatever?" And it happened.
Hmm.
I didn't ask again, and nothing else happened. So I feel like if you learn how to, that could be part of working smart, is making
Okay.
sure that what you're doing, for one, is recognized. Because if you're not speaking for it,
Hmm.
anyone else can speak to it. So your
Yep.
work could technically be, a manager, somebody else could be like, hey, they're not saying anything about that work. And it's like, hey, it was my team that did that. Or, you
Hmm.
can kind of jump in and take a little bit of credit for yourself. And then you're left just working hard for everyone else to prosper. And so it's kind of important where it's a little bit tough, especially if you have a lot of built in humility. It can come across as,
Hmm.
bragging or different things like that. And I think it was actually dad who told me, he was like, is it really bragging if it's true? So it's like, just speak the truth about what you're
That's
doing.
man.
Yeah.
And
That's
then at
actually
the same time,
such an awesome statement.
it
Yeah.
is, yeah. And then at the same time, if you're wanting to get that next step or move forward, make it clear. Tell people, say, hey, I'm looking to get into leadership. What do I need to do? Don't think that your actions are going to say that for you, because if you're not making it clear, you're going to be
Hmm.
Lewis back there running that kitchen by yourself. And, sitting
Yep.
there thinking, do they not see management material back here? No, if you haven't said it, they probably don't.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you bring up a good point,
Yeah.
Joe, cuz and quite frankly, honestly, earlier in my career, I didn't know how to vocalize that or how to ask for that. And I was
Mm.
always like intimidated or like felt uncomfortable asking about that. So I think
Mhm.
to touch on that, like I learned like how to ask and without asking. So what I would do is every time I would come into a new position, or it's still to this day, if I'm working for someone, I'd always ask my direct report of my manager, like, okay, what are your expectations, or like, where do you want me to hit? So get clear on
Mhm.
them, like what goals and stuff they have in mind, because sometimes you don't know if the expectations and like your results, like how you win isn't clear, you don't know how to win. So I
Yep.
would ask them what's my definition of winning? Work that out.
Mhm.
Cool. All right. I know what my win is. So it makes it easier when you go in 90 days or, a few months or whatever. I try to go every quarter or whatever just to plant that seed.
Yeah.
You can go let them know, hey, these are what we talked about. This is what you said were the results. This is
Mhm.
where I think I should be getting paid, and ask for a raise. Like, again,
Yep.
you don't ask or title, whatever is more important to you. For me, titles are okay, but they don't mean nothing to me. Like
Yeah.
you can
I
show me
need
by
some of
the
that.
dollars. Yeah, exactly. So just go ask, you know. And I learned that too. Like I think like I've had so many people or coworkers that just complain about such and such is making this, or I'm making this in this my position. I feel like I should be making this, or they hired this person on, they're starting out more than me in this area. People talk, they companies don't want you to talk about salary, but people talk about it. Like, let's just get it out there.
Mhm.
So I've always said, like, you can't be mad at that person because that's what they asked for. That's what they felt they were worth, and
Yep.
that's what they were negotiated with. You have the same power, the same opportunity to go negotiate your worth. And I always tell people, like, you can't be mad at
Mm.
nobody but yourself for the salary that you have, because you accepted that. If you didn't negotiate it, or you didn't fight for yourself or push for it, you own that. And then you just got to figure out the steps of how you can get to where you want to be.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. It's like there's so many good gems that you guys both just dropped. Um, I don't want to skip over that. I feel like from a practical perspective, what I heard from both of you was, so in your journey you realize, hey, you got to ask for what you want and make it clear, like, this is what I
Yep.
want, and inquire about the steps that it would take to get to what you want. I think that that is huge because, to your point, Lewis, you didn't know how to have those conversations early on. And I think majority of the people that work anywhere are uncomfortable having those conversations, so they just don't have them.
Yep.
I truly believe like that's a unique few that will actually go to management and have that conversation. So that's one thing. And then when you touched on like knowing what the expectations are being so important, because now you can overperform. Because before, how can you say I'm overperforming expectations if you don't know what the expectations are? Because they can
Exactly.
just keep shifting the goalposts.
Yep.
Right? So I think that that was huge that you made it clear up front, like, hey, what do you expect from me out of this role? So that once I hit those things and then I do more, that goes back
Yes.
to like working smarter. I'm going to do what you need me to do, but then I'm going to do more to show you that I'm doing above and beyond what I was asked. I think
Exactly.
that's huge, setting that precedent early. Really
No,
good
I
stuff. Really
yeah,
good
no, I
stuff.
agree that. I mean, that's key. Like it's hard to hit a goal blind, if you don't know what you're aiming for. Like it's tough. Sometimes it'll
Mm,
work out. Sometimes you'll have a boss or somebody that recognizes it and just like, hey, this person's a tough worker, a good worker. We're gonna give them a raise. We don't want to lose them. We're gonna keep them. But sometimes, most companies are just gonna let you
mhm.
just sit there idle unless you go ask for it. You turn up, it'd be
Yep.
2 or 3 years, and you're still making the same and stuck in the same position, and you got way more
Mhm.
responsibilities added on, and you're making the same just because you didn't speak up.
Yep.
Very
Didn't
true.
speak up. They thought you were happy with what you were doing.
Yep.
Nice. Okay. Okay. I'll stay down this path because I like this. So one thing that has helped me out quite a bit in my journey, especially from a career perspective, is just thinking outside the box, just trying to think differently or be more creative in whatever position I'm in or whatever the task is that's required of me. And so I want to get your thoughts on that in a second also, but knowing what the objective is the most important thing, I believe. But then the steps to get there, to me, are up to the individual. And I don't flourish in environments where they're like, no, you have to do it this way. That's like a turn off for me. That doesn't work for me
Nah.
personally. But like let's assume that you don't have those constraints. Then being creative and getting to that goal makes so much of a difference, I think, in reaching those targets. And so an example for me was, man, I was in college and I got this job as a college recruiter actually for a pretty big company. And it was cool because it was like I'm a college student, but I'm actually able to help other college students that are about to graduate get a job that pays pretty good, and set them up for success. So I really enjoyed that role. Um, and this is probably when it clicked for me that it's not how hard you work, it's about the results. Because they actually told us what to do to get new recruits. They were like, you should be, getting 20 signatures a month, and people should be interested and they should be going to these networking events because of your recommendations. And in order to get these people, you should be, catching students where they hang out and going to like the cafeteria and talking to people. I was like, that's stupid. That makes no sense. Why would you go to where people are having fun and say, "Hey, stop having fun and let's talk about business"? Like when you're in college, that's not the place. So what what really stood out for me was they had this like hour expectation, but that was more of a recommendation of like you should be spending 20 hours a week doing this, and as long as you get your 20, new recruits or new people of interest, then you're hitting your targets. I was like, well, if I go to the place where people are already thinking about career progression, thinking about business opportunities in the future, then essentially I have a really warm market. So instead of chasing college students around, I just made a couple of calls to the business professors at the university, said, hey, can I have 10 minutes to come talk to your class and tell them about opportunities that would be really good for somebody in this major that are actively hiring, that are looking for the best talent. And so I would go and talk to like two or three business classes, and 2, 3 hours worth of work, I got my 20 recruits versus 20 hours worth of chasing people around campus. So it's it's wild because that was a direct reflection of the notion that it's about results way more than it is about the effort, because that
Mm-hmm.
was little effort, but I actually had the best recruiting results out of all of my peers in that program. And that to me is why when I'm talking to younger people or older people or anybody, I'm just like, what are you trying to accomplish? And then work a plan that gets you there in the most efficient way. I think that's been really big in terms of career success, is like trying to think in those terms.
Yeah. No, no, I totally agree. I work best with tell me the outcome you're looking for. That's all I need.
Hmm.
Tell me the outcome you're looking for, and I'll get there. Like same thing with your example,
Gotcha.
Jerain. Like they wanted more recruits. We want to get as many recruits in here as possible. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I'll get there. That's all I need. You ain't got to tell me how to go
yeah.
get them. If you want to share what you've done, experience, or whatever, give me that advice. That's fine. I'll look at it. But
Hmm.
I'm gonna try. Give me the freedom to try my way. And you created a system where it was a instead of going out and just randomly talking to people, no, you set up time. People knew it were coming, and you're going there. You got their attention, and you got a better
Hmm.
result because it wasn't just randomly going out spending hours
Yeah,
talking to people in settings that you probably didn't want to be at anyway. And try to start a conversation about business. Like, nah, it's not the right atmosphere, not right
not the
setting.
right
So
atmosphere.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm outcome based. Like just tell me the outcome, your end goal, what you're looking for, and I can get there. And if I got questions that I need
Hmm.
to fill in during the way, I can come back to you. But end goal and let me do my thing.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah,
All right,
I'm the
so I'm gonna
same.
pivot a little bit. Oh, go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
Joe. Go ahead. Yeah, no, I
No,
want
I
to hear
was
what you were gonna say about that.
not much on it really. It's just it's very similar. I think the one small caveat is I really prefer when people bring me a problem. So it's like, hey,
Mm,
this is what I'm having an issue with. And then I'm like, you know what? I have full freedom to figure out what steps need to be taken and what the solution is. And so
Mm-hmm.
mm,
usually that's where I prefer. Though a lot of times, people might have an end goal or design, but I really like being brought problems.
not a problem. You know what? That's a good point. One other thing that has helped is you go looking for the problems, and then you go solve those problems, right? Because a lot of people are waiting to be told, hey, this is the issue, this is the problem, versus, hey, I'm here, I'm on a mission to understand where the pain points are. And then once I understand what those pain points are, now I'm going to come up with the solution for those. So that's another thing that I think in terms of career success, right? Like just going in and saying, hey, I'm new to this place or I've been here for a long time. Who do I need to talk to understand what the major issues are, the major rocks that need to be turned? And then I go and then work on the solution to those issues.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you bring that up. I feel like that's even it's a quick mindset shift that you can make towards success is looking at even complaints or problems as opportunities.
Hmm.
Where it's like, you know what, every time something bugs you or every time something's, off, it's like, hmm, if I solve this, I wonder how many other people that would help as well. And that's where a lot of
Mm,
ideas and a lot of, huge things that take off are just, it's really just solving some problem or need.
true. Good stuff. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah, good
So
stuff, fellas.
So I'm gonna pivot a little bit. We were talking about career success for a while, and I guess this still factors into career success
I
probably. But
what do you
um,
think, Dream?
go ahead.
We're coming up on the 30-minute mark. What do you think? Maybe we can do a part two of this discussion because I think there's a lot to digest, like personal wise. So
Hmm.
maybe we can talk about the next segue on the next one. Like we can break this up into two parts.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea because we were on the career stuff, and I just looked at the time too, and that's wild because there are so many more things to explore.
Exactly.
Like, yeah. All right, yeah, I think part two would be good, and we can touch on some of the other things that are probably a little bit more, centered around like fitness and faith or whatever else you
Yes.
define as your success. So, good point. Yeah, we can stick with this one.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. I think we gave them a lot to digest today, and then we'll be back next week with the part two. So I hope you guys we're gonna try to go live at some point with these two. So if you guys are watching the replay, which everyone is, so just drop some comments below if there's some things that we may not have touched on or may not have mentioned that you guys want us to elaborate on. Again, like I always say, feel free to reach out to us. I'll have the HouseQue website down below. You can get in contact with us all that way, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Wonderful. Thanks for the time, everyone. We love the engagement. So, any questions, we really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.